David sat in his apartment, exhausted from the day, when his phone buzzed. An unknown number. He hesitated, then answered. "Hello?" he said. There was silence, then a soft, familiar voice. David. It was his mother's voice, but she had died 5 years ago. "Mom?" he whispered, shaking. "You're going to die in 1 hour," she said before the line went dead. He tried to convince himself it was a prank, but when the phone buzzed again, he answered. "Mom?" he whispered, terrified. Her voice came, distant and sad. "You don't have much time. You need to say goodbye." David's apartment began to feel wrong. Shadows stretched, walls creaked, and the air grew cold. The clock read 12:30 a.m. His heart pounded as the noises grew louder, something unseen inching closer. Desperation seized him. "What do you want from me?" he screamed into the phone. The voice was a faint whisper. "Say goodbye, David. It's time." His knees buckled, tears streaming down his face. He could feel the inevitable, something unseen squeezing the life out of him. The clock struck 12:55 a.m., the shadows swallowing him whole. In his final moments, he whispered, "Goodbye, Mom." At 1 a.m., the phone went dead. So did David. The next morning, neighbors found his lifeless body. No sign of struggle except for his phone with one last voicemail. It simply said, "Goodbye." Kyle had been getting strange calls for days, every time the same unsettling message, "We are watching you." At first he thought it was a prank, but the calls became more frequent and disturbing. Blocking the number didn't help. The calls came from different unknown numbers, following him wherever he went. Late one night after yet another call, Kyle snapped. He called the number back, but there was only silence. Then a low, menacing voice replied, "We've been watching you for a long time, Kyle. You should be more careful." Terrified, Kyle scoured his house, convinced he was being watched, but found no cameras, no bugs, nothing. His paranoia grew, and he started avoiding windows, closing his blinds and refusing to leave his house. The calls continued. The next day he received another call, but this time it wasn't just the usual message. He heard his own voice, a recording of a conversation he'd had earlier at work. "We know everything," the voice whispered at the end. Panicking, Kyle smashed his phone, but it buzzed one last time, even in pieces. The voice came through again, clearer. "We're inside now." Suddenly the house felt colder, and the shadows seemed to come alive. He rushed to the door, but it was locked. As he heard footsteps behind him, the voice echoed around him. "We're always watching." Kyle backed into a corner as the room filled with oppressive darkness. His phone buzzed one final time. "Nowhere to hide," the voice said before the lights flickered out, leaving him alone in the dark. Jenny was working late in her quiet office when her phone buzzed. The caller ID showed an unknown number. Normally she'd ignore it, but something made her answer. "Hello?" she asked, only to hear static. Then a voice broke through, distorted, desperate. "Help me! I'm trapped! They're coming for me!" Her heart raced. "Who is this?" she asked. But the line went dead. Panicked, she called the number back, but it was already disconnected. A chill ran down her spine. Moments later, a text message appeared on her phone. No words, just a photo. It was of her, sitting at her desk, taken from behind. Another message buzzed in. "We're closer than you think." Terrified, Jenny grabbed her things to leave, but as she reached the door, her phone buzzed one last time. "Leaving won't help, Jenny. We're already inside." Her office door was ajar, just wide enough for someone to have been watching. The public phone on the corner of Elm and Oak was a relic from a bygone era. One crisp autumn evening, Sarah felt an unexpected urge to use the payphone while walking home from the library. As she slid a coin into the slot, the familiar dial tone rang out, followed by a cold, distant voice. "Hello, do you hear me?" Her heart raced. "Who is this?" "I'm the one who watches. I know your name, Sarah. I know your secrets. Go to the abandoned house on Willow Street. There is something hidden there that must be found." Sarah's mind raced. She knew the house, shrouded in local legends of strange occurrences. Despite her fear, she felt compelled to obey. As she approached the house, dread washed over her. Its windows were like empty eyes. Mustering her courage, she stepped inside. The oppressive silence filled her ears as dust motes danced in the moonlight, filtering through the broken windows. After searching, she finally found a hidden compartment behind a loose floorboard, revealing a small, ornate box. Just as she grasped it, the lights flickered and went out, plunging her into darkness. A cold draft swept through and the voice whispered again, "You have done well, Sarah. Now go, I am always watching." Clutching the box, she fled the house, glancing back at its looming silhouette. She knew her ordeal was far from over. The unseen caller had more plans for her, and she felt powerless to stop them.